Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. O Lord, expand my chest. Ease my task. Untie the knots and my tongue so that they may understand me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Haider Mehdi. This is our program, weekly program with Dr. Zafar Bangash in English. And Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Zafar Bangash, welcome to the program, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and my salams to your viewers and listeners as well.
Thank you very much, sir. The reason we're doing this program in English, as you know, we every week we invite Dr. Zafar Bangash to give us insights from the Noble Quran, the Ascendant Quran, the amazing translation by Imam Muhammad Al-Asi, which has been published by the Institute of Contemporary Islamic Thought in Canada, and Dr. Zafar Bangash. Today's reason is very specific because we want to talk about an extremely disturbing and emerging situation that is happening in Syria. And we would like to take Dr. Zafar Bangash's insight, especially with reference to the Quran, to the Sunnah, and the Seerah. And the other issue is that we want to discuss today is about the concept of freedom of speech in Islam, the concept of economic boycott, the concept of social boycott, and the concept of jihad. These are some of the issues that we want to discuss today with Dr. Zafar Bangash. So, Dr. Zafar Bangash, before we go to the economic and social boycott, which is and civil disobedience, which has been called by Prime Minister Imran Khan of Pakistan against the authoritarian fascist rule of the military under Asim Munir, I want your comments on what's going on in Syria vis-a-vis this so-called liberation of Syria, as some people call it. Sir.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I think the developments in Syria are extremely disturbing. I'd like our viewers to pay attention to the fact that it erupted exactly on the same date that the ceasefire went into effect between Israel and Hezbollah on November the 27th. It's not a coincidence. It's actually a very carefully planned plot to undermine the resistance axis. Now, these terrorist groups, basically Al-Qaeda, Daesh, they take different names. Like right now, they are operating under Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which means Committee for the Liberation of Syria. But it's basically Israeli, American, Turkish, Saudi-backed, Jordanians are also involved. These terrorists are backed by them. And Erdogan, unfortunately, the Turkish president, is playing a very dirty role in this. The Syrian government obviously had lowered its guard. It was not expecting that these terrorists are going to erupt. And yet, Turkish intelligence, Turkish forces, Turkey actually occupies a part of Syria, as does American forces. So I think we need to be clear that Syria is being attacked from all sides because it's a very important conduit for supplying help to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now, I want to point out that the ceasefire that went into effect between Israel and Lebanon was actually a victory for Hezbollah, not for Israel. Because if we see what Israel had set out to achieve, they had said that they wanted to make sure that Hezbollah is disarmed. Israel had vowed that it will occupy a part of Lebanon so that Hezbollah is not able to attack Israel. And number three, that Israeli settlers in the north would return to their homes. None of these objectives has been achieved. The only point that Israel has achieved, or at least on paper, is that Hezbollah has agreed to move its forces to the north of the Litani River, which means about 10 miles of southern Lebanese territory Hezbollah would not occupy. That would be occupied by United Nations, international, peacekeeping forces. But those forces would also monitor Israeli military activities. So it's not just one side; it's going to be doing both. And further, that Israel would not maintain any forces in South Lebanon, because they tried from October the 1st till November the 27th. They lost a lot of troops, etc. So Israel lost. So therefore, they basically struck through Syria, because Syria is a very important factor or conduit in this struggle. And if Syria, the government of Syria falls, and Iran is unable to provide support to Hezbollah, then obviously that would be a very, very serious setback for the Islamic resistance. It is also important to note that throughout this period when Israel was carrying out its genocide in uh, Gaza, of course, it's still continuing. We didn't see any of these so-called freedom fighters in Syria move to Gaza to help the people of Gaza or to fire anything at Israel. In fact, yesterday, which is Friday, December the 6th, there was an article that was published in the Times of Israel in which it stated that one of the senior commanders of the Free Syrian Army has requested the Israeli Air Force to bomb Syrian positions so that it would help their movement. And secondly, he said that we have no conflict with Israel. We, in fact, want to live in peace with our neighbors. That includes Israel. So I think everybody should be clear that these mercenaries that are over there, as I mentioned, they are from Uzbekistan, they are from Tajikistan, they are from Turkestan in China, and from Chechnya. These people are mercenaries paid by the Americans and the Zionists to basically overthrow the government of Bashar al-Assad. Now, I believe that, obviously, a government in Syria would have to be established through the will of the Syrian people, and that includes all of the Syrian people. Even if they are opposed to Bashar al-Assad, they have absolute right to be represented in determining the future of Syria, but not to turn Syria into a colony of Israel or America or Turkey so that they can achieve their nefarious agenda and undermine the Islamic resistance that is fighting so valiantly against the Zionist occupiers of Palestine.
Dr. Bangash, the interesting aspect of this, and of course, an extremely worrisome aspect, is that this is an extension of Al-Qaeda and Daesh. It used to be operate, as I think as something al-Sham or something. It was the old name.
Al-Nusra Front. This is like,
this is the Al-Nusra Front, which was funded by the United Arab Emirates.
Correct. It is actually Al-Qaeda, and it sort of renamed itself Al-Nusra Front in Syria, and now they have changed their name to Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. So they keep on, changing their name basically to sort of, present themselves in different forms. They say, oh, no, one group becomes sort of, discredited. So then they immediately move to adopt a new name. Basically, it's the same people. To give you an example, the current head honcho of this terrorist outfit, his name is Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani. Now, he was declared a terrorist by the United States government in 2013. Okay, now, later on, he said that he is separating from the Al-Qaeda, etc. And now he's being presented as a moderate rebel. This is in the Daily Telegraph of Britain, the New York Times, the Times of Israel. All of these media outlets are now presenting him as a moderate rebel. It's just like saying that he's a moderate terrorist. I mean, for God's sake, what are you talking about? Who are you trying to fool? And you see the direction in which they have moved from Aleppo, because Aleppo is very close to the Turkish border. Turkish forces are occupying parts of Syria. From there, they have moved down and gone to Hama, which is another major city in Syria, along the same M5 major highway. Next, they are targeting Homs. Now, Homs is about 100 miles from Damascus. Of course, they are the news reports that are being presented. They are saying that the Syrian army is demoralized, it is on the run, etc., etc. That is not true. Actually, they have. You are a military man. You would know that forces try to redeploy so that they can adopt defensive positions, so that they are able to get supplies to their troops. There is no point in holding a position or staying in a position which is not defendable at that time, because their supply lines may be cut off. But we need to keep in mind that major cities in Syria are still under government control. They've not been occupied by these terrorist groups. And secondly, some of the footage that is being shown of protests in Damascus are actually from the year 2012 and 2013. So they're using these fake tactics in order to create a scenario as if the Syrian government forces are on the verge of collapse. They are not. And they will definitely put up a fight. And ultimately, what comes out of it obviously would be determined by how valiantly they are able to fight and how strongly their allies are able to support them. Although there is no doubt that their allies, whether it is Iran or Hezbollah or Russia, are in a difficult situation. But this actually indicates the conspiracy that is underway, because the Zionists, the Americans, Turkish, Saudi, Emiratis, they realize that the resistance front is fighting on multiple fronts, and this is an opportunity to try to see if they can strike and take control of Syria. If we look at the way these terrorist groups have moved, they started from Aleppo, which is right in the northwest of Syria, right close to the Turkish border. And from there, they moved south to Hama, and they are trying to threaten Homs. Now, of course, in the Western media, they are giving reports that the Syrian army is not putting up a fight. They are fleeing from there, etc. There is no doubt that the Syrian army has had to redeploy, because I'm sure you as a military man would know that there is no point in keeping military forces in areas that are threatened, where you cannot provide supplies. So you regroup, you make a tactical withdrawal, then you take up defensive positions in areas where you can supply your forces, etc., so that you can put up a proper defense. There are many cities in Syria that are completely under Syrian government control, whether it's Latakia, Tartus, and also Damascus. In fact, they've been showing videos of Damascus as if there are, people protesting in Damascus. If you examine them carefully, do a forensic analysis of them, one finds that these are actually from the year 2012 and 13. So they're using 10, 12-year-old videos to show as if this is happening in Damascus. According to our reports and information, Damascus is completely calm. There are absolutely no protests over there. And in fact, the government forces are fully in control. How it shapes up, I really don't know. But I think one thing is clear, that the eruption of these forces is not organic. It is deliberately instigated by Israel, the United States, Turkey in particular, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. These forces are involved, including Jordan, because there have also been some protests in Daraa, which is right on the Jordanian border in the south of Syria, which is only about 10 kilometers from the Jordanian border. And there is also, of course, a U.S. Military base close by. So you see that the way this whole operation has erupted, it has all the features of foreign intervention, foreign interference. And as I said earlier, most of the fighters that are involved in these groups, etc., are not even Syrians. They are Uzbeks, they are Tajiks, they are Uyghurs, they are Chechens, etc. I really cannot understand how they are going to liberate their countries, whether it's Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkestan in China, and Chechnya, etc. by attacking the government of Syria. I really cannot understand, because either these people don't know geography, or they are obviously agents of imperialism and Zionism, which is obviously the case.
Sir, when and you touched on this point that these are terrorists, they were part of Daesh. When I just showed earlier about Julani, I mean, this is Reuters says that Julani, and I just want to show that again. It's just amazing at the hypocrisy and the danger that the Americans are. This is Reuters saying the commander of Al Qaeda's franchise in the Syrian civil war, Abu Muhammad al Golani, was a shadowy figure who kept out of the public eye when his group became the most powerful faction fighting President Bashar al Assad. Now, everyone knows is a Daesh Al Qaeda. The Americans know it, the American foreign policy makers know, the establishment American knows it. Aren't they playing with tremendous fire just to give Israel some kind of a hold over Syria, allowing a Daesh type terrorist organization take over whatever part of Syria they are allowed to take over, and then again create this factory of terrorists and bombers, and who will, in my opinion, potentially again attack mainland USA, targets in Europe, targets in North America, including Canada. I mean, if they think these people are just going to do their bidding because right now very narrow interests are aligned, I see a huge, massive potential terrorist disaster emerging in North America and Europe.
You see, if we look at and compare this to the emergence of Al Qaeda back in the 1980s, it was the Americans and the Saudis who created Al Qaeda to basically fight alongside the Afghan Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. So the Americans thought that, well, it was Brzezinski's idea, actually. He was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, but later on he, of course, other Americans also adopted this policy that they took on the Al Qaeda on board, and they felt that once they use it against the Soviets and defeat the Soviets, and of course they succeeded in that. They basically this led to the disintegration of the Soviet Union, but Al Qaeda then came back with a vengeance, and of course the Americans then had to fight against them, and the launched this vicious war on Afghanistan for 20 years, and they got their pants beaten off, and they were driven out of there. And they're playing the same dirty game now in Syria. They did it in Iraq. Now they're playing it in Syria. They think that they can use these terrorist groups, and then if they don't want them, they can just get rid of them. I mean, they got rid of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. They killed him back in 2018 or 2018, I believe, in Syria. So they think that they can use these groups for their own nefarious agenda. But the risk, as you pointed out, is that these are absolutely loose cannons, uncontrollable people. They have no scruples. They have no morals. Sure, you can kill their leaders, etc. But then ultimately they will the ideology that they carry, which has nothing to do with Islam, but unfortunately they carry that Islamic label, and many Muslims are unfortunately swayed by this nonsensical notion that somehow these people are committed Muslims fighting for the sake of Islam, and they want to liberate their country, etc. As I said, the majority of them are not even Syrians. So what is it that they are fighting for? What is it that they're going to liberate? That is the reason why, unfortunately, the policies that the Western regimes have adopted are very narrow-minded policy. They're basically trying to protect Israel. And let me tell you very, very frankly, I do not see Israel lasting for too long. There are deep, deep problems inside Israel, deep divisions inside Israel. And, as soon as the war ends. And that is what Netanyahu is refusing to accept, because he knows that as soon as the war ends, he would be arrested, put on trial on charges of corruption and also failing to protect the Israeli people, etc. But in any case, I think this war cannot go on forever, and it will have to come to an end. And the civil war inside Israel would intensify. It's already going on, but it will intensify. And yet, America, Israel, Turkey, etc., they are using these terrorist groups to basically weaken the resistance front and to prolong Israel's miserable existence, which is a non-starter.
And which then tells us that the danger of a Middle East conflict has become even greater, and countries like on the fringes. I mean, Iran is right in the middle. I don't know how Iran is going to respond to this. What's your view on that, sir?
Well, Iran's foreign minister actually visited Syria on December the 1st, and he met Bashar al-Assad, and then he made a statement. Actually, yesterday, he said that if Syria were to request our help in terms of Iran deploying its forces, Iran would do so. I think it is more likely that there would be probably some militias being sent from Iraq. That's why 2 days ago, the Americans actually bombed the border crossing between Iraq and Syria, so that these forces couldn't enter, or these militia forces couldn't enter Syria. And Israel also bombed the border crossing between Lebanon and Syria, because they want to prevent any Hezbollah forces from going to the help of Syria. But I think if the Syrian government were to request Iran to send its forces, Iran would do so. There was a report in the New York Times yesterday, it's completely erroneous, because the Iranian foreign ministry denied it, that Iran had withdrawn its families of diplomats in Damascus, etc. Iran categorically denied that, said we have done no such thing. Our embassy is functioning, their families are all there, nobody has left Syria. And that was because this whole story was based on the assumption, on the erroneous report, that there has been an uprising inside Damascus, and they showed this footage from 2012 and 13 to allege that there were these things, but no such thing has happened. So whenever Iran makes a statement through the foreign ministry or through other officials, these are actually correct statements. They don't tell lies. So I believe if Iran's foreign minister says that if Syria were to request our forces, then we will definitely send our forces into Syria to help the Syrian government.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very clear. I see something very dangerous emerging out of this. And just for our viewers, here I have a map. I showed this earlier. This is a BBC map. It's about 24 hours old. And the interesting thing is, it says who controls Syria. So there is Syrian opposition led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, but they never say this is a Daesh proxy now, never say it's Al-Qaeda. Then local southwestern opposition groups, I don't know who they are. Turkish-backed Syrian rebels and Turkish military, I don't know who these Syrian rebels are. Then it says Syrian government, and then Kurdish-led forces, another, so 5. And then Al-Tanf deconfliction zone, and then something called contested. So here is what it says. The north of Syria bordering Turkey is the area which is dominated on the east by this Al-Tanf deconfliction zone. I'll ask you what this means. I don't understand. A contested area. Then the yellow is Turkey, backed Syrian rebels. Then this red portion is Syrian opposition led by the Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Aleppo and Hama, as you said, and now they're saying close to Homs. And then a large part of Syria, which is in this beige type color, is Syria. And then there is a US outpost in the southeast. So very interesting things. It kind of looks like a balkanization of Syria. And then we end, sir.
Yes, of course. Now, the deconfliction zone, of course, is something that was agreed upon through the what is called the Astana process.
Okay.
Iran, Turkey, and Russia established a group in 2017 to try to create an area where there should not be any conflict, and that is what is referred to as the deconfliction zone.
Okay.
Of course, it held until 2 weeks ago when these people erupted with the help of Turkey, Israel, and the United States primarily in order to take advantage of the situation. And as you can see, this map shows that the yellow area is basically area that is controlled by groups that are backed by Turkey or Turkish forces directly. And of course, you have the Kurds also over there. They're called Syrian Democratic Forces, etc., who control other areas. And Turkey uses this excuse that it wants to fight against PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, communist outfit, which is fighting against Turkey for their rights. And so Turkey is basically using that as a pretext. But there's another factor involved here, and I think our viewers should be aware of it, and that is that Erdogan has this notion that he's going to recreate the Ottoman Empire. And if people are familiar with history, they would know that, and this came across in the docudrama, Ertugrul series, a fantastic series, but of course, quite a bit of it is just mythical, and it projects, Turkish nationalism. That the father of Ertugrul, Suleiman Shah, is buried in Syria. And of course, that is something that Erdogan is using, that he wants to recapture that area to, make it into the greater Turkish sort of, empire. And Erdogan also is pushing this notion of Turkic people, whether they are in Chechnya, whether Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Turkestan, all of these people Erdogan refers to as Turkish people, and he wants to create this, recreate this Turkish empire. Unfortunately, Erdogan's position is very, very problematic. He is acting as a hypocrite. His rhetoric is fantastic, but his actions are completely abominable. And this is what he's doing in Syria as well, much to the detriment of the Muslim Ummah.
He is reinterpreting Turkish history.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Very kind of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all those people who are fighting for haqq. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defeat the nefarious designs of all those who want to destroy the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they support these obscurantists, these fanatical terrorists, supposedly under the garb of an Islamic force. And the fire that the US and Israel and UAE and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Turkey are playing with in Israel is a fire that will, if not controlled, is likely going to consume them in different ways. We hope and pray for peace in this world. We hope and pray that freedom is given to people what they want. It is fair, it is equitable, it is just, and we see a socially just society and a socially just world. Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Bangash. Inshallah, we will meet again next week, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Alhamdulillah, ilahi amin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you.